Hey, welcome to episode 5 of What the Oh, we do have a name. We finally have a name. It is the Wiener Chronicles. I think not the best name I've ever heard. However, it is what people suggested on awiener at anthonywiener.com. I say people because a grand total of 2 people weighed in. That said that a couple of people had other ideas. So this is a little bit of a journal that I do about the campaign running for the city council here in Lower Manhattan. It's we're not that many days away of voting starts June 14th, so we're in that less than 50 days window, and it's been interesting and fun, letting you behind the curtain a little bit about like what happens 50 days out. Well, by now all the money has been raised. I say all the money has been raised because unlike some campaigns you might be aware of where who's got the most money in a race like this, we all agree to abide by the city campaign finance law rules, and the trade-off is they give us a bunch of money in exchange for us agreeing to limit our expenditures and also to be very disciplined about reporting how we spend, where it comes from, and everything else. And so we all have the same amount of money. I remember early on in the race, there was one candidate who was like, I got the most money. I'm like, dude, we're all going to have the same amount of money by the end. And here we are at the end. Now it's a function of how you spend the money, and being judicious with that spending is a very important part of being a good candidate and a disciplined campaign. And we've kind of been holding our fire. But what do you spend money on? You spend money on pizza for volunteers. You spend money on posters. You spend money on on stuff. But primarily, most of the money in a race is going to go to contacting and connecting with voters. If you're a bigger campaign for mayor or for senate or something, you do that on television. In the city council, you do it by knocking on doors and sending people mail. Yeah, mail, old-fashioned mail, and doing some digital stuff. It's not easy. It's not easy, but that's going to be going on now. I did want to touch base. You saw this in the title of the episode is that Donald Trump has entered the chat because after a lot of conversation about the issues facing the New York City, it is really hard to get past the idea that increasingly dominating the conversation that's on everyone's lips is, man, what the hell, Donald Trump? Every single day he's doing something crazier and more destructive. And a lot of people want to talk about that, including, by definition, if you're an active Democrat who's going to vote in a primary, you're very attuned to what's going on politically in Washington and what's going on with Donald Trump. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. I mean, this isn't an economics podcast. You can go to plenty of places to listen to that. But if you think about the 4 big ways that our economy goes around here in New York City, one is obviously finance, Wall Street. 2 is tourism. You might be surprised to know this, but maybe not. It might be intuitive that we make an enormous amount of revenue for the city when people come and visit the greatest city on earth. 3 is real estate. They say that, real estate is to New York what oil is to Texas. And the 4th is healthcare. We have the biggest and most thriving healthcare infrastructure maybe anywhere else in the world. If you stand at JFK Airport long enough, some prince or potentate or wealthy person from another country will be coming here to New York to get their healthcare. And we also have a very generous Medicaid program, and we have great facilities and teaching hospitals and everything else. And so if you think of those 4 things, they're all under attack by Donald Trump's policies. Finance, in that if you crash the economy, it's not good for finance. But more importantly, he's recently started to talk about a trade war around services. Well, we're a service economy, and finance is the ultimate service economy. And frankly, if you start to have sanctions against service industries, it's going to be very bad for New York. Tourism, we have already seen it in New York City, a dramatic decline in tourism, the dramatic decline of people flying into our airports coming from other countries. And who can blame them? One of our biggest tourism sources is Canada. And if you were Canadian, why would you want to come to New York? I mean, with this environment, not that we don't like you, we welcome aboard. But if you're feeling a nationalist attack like Donald Trump, you're going to travel less. And in real estate, this one might be less intuitive. If you're going to build and develop real estate, you need lumber, you need steel, you need finishings, you need things that come from other countries. But more importantly, if you're thinking about signing a 200,000 square foot lease to put a whole bunch of more desks in for your company, are you really doing it with the uncertainty that exists in the economy right now, led by Donald Trump? And then there's healthcare, slashing Medicaid, proposing changes in Medicare, they were repealing Obamacare. All these things would be very bad for New York healthcare, are coming down the pike. So one way that you deal with this is just your footing, understanding the rhythm of these things. I'm kind of almost professional at fighting with MAGA and fighting with Donald Trump and these guys. I'm good at it. I understand when their threats are to be taken seriously. I know how to argue with them. I did it on the air as a radio host. But from the tax perspective, what I think we should be doing is preparing legislation here in New York State and New York City that says if you're going to give a big tax cut to the wealthiest Americans and the wealthiest corporations, we, the taxpayers of New York State and New York City, are going to say, we're going to grab some of that money. If you're basically taking from New York City to give big tax cuts to the wealthiest Americans, we are going to increase our taxes to basically have a Trump premium. When you get a Trump tax cut of $1 million because you're a multimillionaire, half of it is going to be a tax increase that goes back to the coffers of the state of New York, because we have to pick up more and more of the expenses that the federal government might have already done. And that's a policy thing, but a lot of it is around New Yorkers just want to know who's going to fight for them. And I think that I'm able to show that that's the kind of person I've always been and am willing to be again. So that's a little bit of the way Donald Trump has kind of entered the chat here. I think it's going to get even more so. Every day Donald Trump wants to dominate conversations. And the way he's doing it is by saying and doing crazy things that invariably inflame New Yorkers' passions, but also really cut to the quick of what our economy and our society are about. So we're going to keep doing that. So in the coming 50 some odd days, if I haven't already run into you, if you're a resident of the district, I'd probably be knocking on your door any day now. If you're someone who's watching this from far, who wants to participate and wants to maybe volunteer, wants to keep a track of what's going on, anthonyweiner.com. You could always email me directly at aweiner@anthonyweiner.com. If you're looking to make a donation, we've already got all the money we need. I appreciate it. And to all of you who have donated, I want to say a word of thanks. It was we didn't have to take any money from interest groups or PACs or labor unions. We did it basically with a lot of concerned New Yorkers mostly, and some people who are not even New Yorkers who donated. We're grateful for that as well. So I'm going to keep you posted. Stay in touch with me as well. Facebook, whatever, Instagram, wherever you're seeing this is probably a good place to keep track of what's going on. I'm going to be on some media things coming up soon. I'll let you know when those things are finalized. Really do appreciate you tuning in and all the support for the campaign, and I appreciate it. And I'll see you next time.